Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of Switch of Play with myself, Mark Simpson, and good evening once again, Micky Barron. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Actually, my last day at work today before the 6 weeks holidays, if you can believe that. I know it's strange times for everyone, but it's actually the last day at work. We've still got stuff to do for the next 2 or 3 days, contacting kids and just doing the lessons on the computer. But apart from that, yeah, I'm looking forward to the 6 weeks when we just relax a little bit.
I was going to say, you're ready for some time off now.
I know someone said to me, "Are you going away?" I was like, "I'm going to have to try because I've had 4 months of sort of occupying the kids in the house, and another 6 weeks that might finish it off." So, yeah, no, it's good. As I say, we're just trying to get through this week and then look forward to our holidays.
And great feedback once again to the Tinks episode last week. We knew it was going to be enjoyable for people, but you know, it's always nice when that's backed up by the reaction as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we knew what was going to happen. I think anyone that knows Tinks knows what he's like. But I think it was nice to see he had the serious side of him as well as a coach, and especially when he was talking about Coops leaving, and I think he was quite emotional about that. You could hear it in his voice and definitely see it in him. But obviously the other side is the funny side of Tinks, and some of the stories were great. Some of the stories I had to leave out were even better. But hopefully we'll try and get him on again and at some point and maybe tell those stories to everyone.
We have a good variety of guests, and tonight is really one where we're branching out a little bit, isn't it? You know, I think the previous 8 guests, at least one of us has known them very, very well, you know, and tonight with Steve Fletcher, it's a little bit different. We both know of him and we've both met him before, but I'm really interested and fascinated to learn a bit more about his career from the horse's mouth and just about how he feels the fact that although he didn't play the lion's share of his football for Hartlepool, I think the people of Hartlepool still sort of hold dear the achievements he's made in the game.
Yeah, he obviously had a big impact at the time when he burst onto the scene, and people still remember the goals that he scored. And as you say, he didn't play that many games, but I think being a Hartlepool lad and being a big lad, larger than life character as well, when he came home, everyone knew he was home type of thing. So yeah, as I say, I played against him. I've sat with him, watched a couple of games with him. I don't know a great deal about him. I don't know sort of how he works or what he's doing at the moment. So it's going to be interesting. But I really want to see when he was playing for Bournemouth, sort of, was he ever wanting to come back to Hartlepool? Did he ever have the chance to do that? Obviously, did he look out for results and stuff like that? So just picking his brains on football in general, but sort of the connection to Hartlepool will be interesting.
Well, welcome to Switch of Play. Without further ado, Steve Fletcher. How are you, Fletch?
I'm very well, thank you. I'd like to say I'm down on this sunny south coast, but it's a bit miserable today. Unusually for July here in Bournemouth, it's usually fantastic weather, but I'm okay.
Obviously, we start off by talking a little bit about how the whole situation in the world, the crisis and the pandemic that's gone across the globe. How has it affected you and your life and the things you've had to do? How have you coped during that lockdown?
Well, we went in on the Friday. Normal training. We were due to play Crystal Palace on the Sunday. So we went on the Friday and we got word of the coronavirus situation from the club doctor. And we all got a meeting together. Eddie grabbed in all the staff, all the players. So there's probably 70, 80 people in this meeting. He said, look, we've got to adhere to the guidelines that are going ahead. And he sent us home. And that was on Friday, the 13th of March. And everyone was like, ooh, Friday the 13th, unlucky. And we kept in touch through WhatsApp. We set up a WhatsApp group between the staff, obviously the coaching staff, club doctor, physios, etc. And we just monitored it week by week, but the weeks just flew past. And before I knew it, 1 week we turned into 2, into 4, into 6, and there was nothing. There was no sign of us coming back, and it was very strange. So we were very, very fortunate down here, and obviously having my parents back in Hartlepool, I kept in touch with them. But we had unbelievable weather for March, all of April, most of May. So I was very fortunate, you know, spending my time in the back garden, going up lovely area we have a heath behind us where I take my 3 dogs. So every day, yes, it was monotonous, but I was out doing something and I tried to have some structure to my day where it didn't matter what I did, I tried to achieve something, whether it be jet washing the driveway or cleaning the fascias on the house or whatever it was. I tried to achieve something each day and then sit in the garden and enjoy myself like it was my 6 to 7 weeks off in the summer before we go back, because I just didn't know what was going to happen. And then I think I went back middle of May, so it was almost 9 weeks we had off. It was very strange. We went back. It was small groups of 5. We had to be tested. I mean, we still get tested 2 and 3 times a week. We have to drive. We have a drive-through testing area for all the staff, but there was only limited staff could go back. So it was the players first, then immediate first team staff, Eddie Howe, Jason Tindley, assistant manager. I was invited back into the second week because the Premier League allowed each team to have more representatives, more people in that group. We went from 40, which obviously 28 of them are players, into 50. And when we went to 50, I got back in. So them 7, 8, 9 weeks I had off doing nothing was very strange, just because nobody had a clue what was happening. I enjoyed it in a bizarre way. Spent a lot of time with my family. You know, apart from the odd little niggly argument, which you have with your wife daily, we got on really well, and it was nice to spend some time, because usually in my position at the football club, I leave the house at 7:30 in the morning. I probably get in about 6:30 at night. That's not even travelling away with the team. So to spend every day with her for almost 9 weeks was a test. We had my daughter who's at university. She's 19. She was with us all the time, every day. And my other daughter was the worry, because she's a midwife. She's a fully qualified midwife. And from day one, she was on the front line. And as you know, they had no PPE. Every time she come home from work, you know, she was having to be sanitised, straight in the shower, closing the washing machine. It was a worry, because that put us at high risk, because she was at high risk. So I had both ends of the spectrum. I had the chilling out with my family, and then I had the worry of my eldest daughter, Danny, who's 22 and a midwife. So it was a strange time, but I enjoyed it.
Fletch, can we just go, what is your role at Bournemouth now? I know a lot of people will know it, but just for some of the people that might not know, what are you actually doing within the football club?
Well, I've been retired since 2013. So I've been retired 7 years. I had 2 years in recruitment, which Eddie Howe made me head of UK recruitment in my second year. But then in 2015, just as we got into the Premier League, he asked me to go along in the coaching role. Something I absolutely love, because the next best thing to being a player, which I had for 23, 24 years, is to be out on the field with the players.
Yeah.
You know, I went into training every day, and I helped join in, and obviously it was just, you know, doing whatever Eddie wants, and it still is to this day, really. And then at the end of that season, which would be in 2015, after our first season in the Premier League, he asked me if I'd like to stay on, and I was like, yeah, 100%. That's what I'd love to do. I mean, I enjoyed the scouting role. It opened my eyes, but where Bournemouth is geologically on the map, a bit like Hartlepool, everywhere to travel.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of teams in the Manchester area, and we don't have many down here. So sometimes when I had to go and watch our players on a Tuesday night, I'd be up at, you know, Blackburn, Bolton, Burnley, and it was tough driving. You know,
yeah, it's not as glamorous as it sounds, Fletch, is it? That road?
No, it's not, and it's a lonely place. And sometimes it was nice to sometimes sit there and gather your thoughts, listen to your music, listen to podcasts, but doing it 3 and 4 times a week, and you know, and the roads are shut on the way back at 10 o'clock at night, and you're getting diverted, and it's taking you 6 hours to get back from Manchester, teaming down with rain, and that's not the glamorous side of it. The glamorous side of it is obviously seeing the players you sign come in and do well. So the likes of Josh King, Callum Wilson, who I, you know, relentlessly went to week in, week out to watch them. That's the special moments that I got from scouting, and it opened my eyes to many things. But obviously being on the field, helping the boys with the coaching and doing what Eddie wants me out on the training field is the next best thing to football. So I've been now a coach for 4.5 years, first team coach. And I also do the ambassador role, which I took on permanently when I retired in 2013. So when the players go to events, or the club wants a spokesman for a charity, business, children's hospital, I'll go and do everything that the chief exec and the owner and the manager want. So
brilliant.
I have represented the club for many years. I've been there 28 years now, so I've represented them like you were, Micky, and you know, in aspects. But to be given the ambassador role was something I was very proud of back when I retired, and something I take very seriously.
Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant that you've obviously been there for such a long time, but your reputation down there, and the way you speak and the way you are and your manner, it's a perfect role for you to do alongside your coaching as well, isn't it? So it's a credit to you that you can manage both those roles, because it must be testing at times to do both roles, but do them well.
Do you know that the hardest thing I found when I retired was, because I played till I was almost 41, I've become so institutionalised in playing. And yourself, you know, you had a long career. I had a 24-year career, and I thought I was Peter Pan. I thought I could go on forever. And a lot of the players, when I retired, well, some of them are still there now. So when I went into scouting, there was still 7 or 8 of the lads still there from my first year I retired. And even then when I went on the coaching role, there was still 7 or 8 lads in the first team. And I found it hard to transition because I always wanted to play. I thought I could play forever. Taking the role of the coaching is easy because of Ed and the way he works. You know, I'm there and when he needs me and what he wants me to do. And if he wants my input, I wait for him to ask rather than me putting it out there. The ambassador role is great because I'm in among the players, and like I say, I always represent the club. I've been on media courses. It's something I even look to get into after football and the media side of things. So I was always going to do little weekend things with Sky Sports, local radio down here is Radio Solent, BBC Radio Solent. So I was doing a lot of things like that, and the ambassador role sort of walked into it because I was doing a lot of it representing the club anyway. I think it's just something you become better at with age. You speak better, you learn to be in different environments, and it opens your mind up to all different avenues. Like I say, I could be in a hospital one week, I could be taking the players to a charity event, then I'm speaking to school children, and then I'm speaking to businessmen in big companies across the south as spokesmen, because they like to know about our success at the Bournemouth Football Club, because that relates to business as well. So I'm always telling our story to a wide range of different people, and I really enjoy that.
And I suppose the sort of rise of Bournemouth from when Eddie took over and getting to the Premier League was a perfect time for you to make that ambassador role even bigger, and sort of the sort of focus on Bournemouth just got gigantic, didn't it, when they went into the Premier League?
It was surreal. It was, Mickey, and I don't know, it's sort of all my career, 23 years, I got 10 times more attention because of my role at the club. And I mean, a lot of Hartlepool people might not know this, but we were 1 game from going out of the Football League in 2009. I came back to Bournemouth after 18 months away. When Eddie took over as manager in 2009 in January, he got me back. I was at Chesterfield for a year in Crawley Town. I'd been released after 15 years. And he got me back at the age of 36. And I scored the winning goal 10 minutes from time to keep the football club.
I remember that,
And we basically had no chairman, nobody working there. We had an embargo. We'd gone into administration again. We'd been deducted 17 points at the start of the season. And to score that goal goes down in folklore. And all the companies from NBC were coming over from America, and they wanted to know about this fairy tale story of this small little League One club, how they went from almost going out of the Football League. So straight away, scoring the goal, giving me this magnanimous, and output towards what the team had achieved. I mean, it was literally probably a small catalyst from where we're at now as a team, but the attention we got, and I got personally, was just unbelievable. You think you have 23, 24 years as a player, but because you're in the limelight, you're in the Premier League, you're viewed all over the world. I think we were the 2nd most watched team in our first season in America behind Manchester United, because they just love this fairy tale of this small little club that get 10, 11,000 supporters going up against Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham. It was crazy. And I really enjoyed it. And you're right, it took my ambassador role on even further, because when I did go into companies in Bournemouth or across the south, they wanted to know, basically, how did we do it?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if you're a football company or you're a limited company, you're in business, you're in economics, whatever it is, finance. You're all a team, and that team's the cogs have got to work in every department for the team to be successful. You can't have any part of that department pulling in different directions. So my story was, yes, football, but it relates to every business in every walk of life if you want to be successful.
Yeah. I could talk about Eddie all day, because I'm one of his biggest fans. I love the way he plays football. I love the way he handles himself. But I honestly don't think, probably outside of Bournemouth, he got enough credit for what everyone at the club did, just keeping them in the league. And going into the Premier League and everything else they've done is amazing. But that season, keeping you up, for me, was just an incredible achievement.
100%. Mickey, it's no different, 100% no different than Hartlepool United getting in the Premier League. We were getting 3,500 supporters, right? When we were doing well, we were getting 5, exactly same as Hartlepool. Average of 3, when they're in League One. All of a sudden, you're getting fives, you're getting more, you're getting to. I mean, you got to the playoff final, didn't you? You got beat on Sheffield, and you took tens of thousands down there. So the support is there to a degree, but we'll always be this small club, and we are the smallest club in the Premier League. Simple as. You get 11,000 supporters. Yes, if we had a bigger stadium, we might get 15, 16. We're never going to get 25,000. I don't think there's that type of intense support down here. We're a seaside town, and we've got a fabulous football team. We play beautiful football, and we've got a manager who's escalated us to this bizarre position of being in the Premier League when we're always a League One team.
So Fletch, how did he do it? Because I mean, I don't know him. I've obviously played against him, and you watch from afar, and you think, yeah, keeping them in the league is one thing, and sort of that miracle. But then changing the mindset of the players who were already there, because you can't get rid of them all. And then obviously the recruitment must have been good to get players in that he wanted. It is a fairy tale story. There's no other way of saying it, is it? But I'd love to know that season after you stayed up, what was his plans? Was he just happy to stay up, or did he want to push on and really like gain momentum for the club?
He's always said his motto is, you know, if you stand still, you go backwards. And even if you move forward 0.5%, 1%, if you get 1% more out of each player, and there's 20 odd players in the team, you're pushing in the right direction. So he's really strong-minded. He has an incredible work ethic. You know, he's in at the stadium at 6:30 every morning. I was going to the gym with him in this a couple of years ago at about 6 o'clock, but I had to get in at 10 to 6 to set up ready for me and him. We did half an hour, but by 4 o'clock I was asleep at the desk, and I don't know how he did it. His work ethic is relentless. He doesn't let any little thing, tiny thing, get brushed under the carpet, because in his mind, if you brush that under the carpet, other things get brushed before you know you've got big problems. So he nails them problems straight away. His attention to detail, he's very meticulous. He's not a shouter, he's not a baller. He tells you when you have to, but as you know, Mickey, in this day and age, you can't just go and shout at every player.
Yeah. It doesn't. What we just talked about, it doesn't work, does it? When
to get absolute, relentlessly bollockings off the manager, why wouldn't I? Because that was where it was, and I'm sure when you were there, you did it as well. But nowadays, there's certain players you can and can't. Of course, he needed the backing of the owner, Max Denham, our owner, a Russian owner. So when we stayed up that year in 2009, I was speaking about, he had a good group of players. He got me back to gel them players together. Like I say, I was 36 going on 37. We got promoted with the same team the next year because we had an embargo on, because we'd been into administration on the season before. We couldn't sign anyone. And then we got promoted, and we were in about 6th or 7th in the league, and then Burnley come calling for him. Well, Crystal Palace originally, and we turned them down, and then Burnley. And I think he thought he had to go then because, the backing wasn't there with the Russian at this present time, and Burnley was in the Championship, and, he wanted to see how far he could take it as a manager, as much as he loved Bournemouth. And then, as football does, it turns full circle, and within 18 months he's back. I mean, I took over as assistant manager for 10 months. I really enjoyed that while he was gone. Then I stepped down, and for whatever reason, and I become a player again. So I was 39, 40 when Eddie come back, and he got me straight back and involved, and he had me on the bench, and I played 11 games in the season when he come back. And we came back in the October, and we were 21st in League One, and we spiralled, and we never lost a game, and we went right to the top of the league. We lost a couple in about March, April, and then on the last day of the season, we drew away at Tranmere, but we'd already been promoted, and all of a sudden, for only the second time in the club's history, we're in the Championship, and it was just incredible. But as soon as he walked back in October, after he'd had the 18 months away at Burnley, because obviously I'd been with him from almost the first day he took over in January 2009, I could just see the difference in him. He'd been to a bigger club in Burnley, a higher league, and I just saw the difference straight away. And I suppose he matured as a manager, and he's still only probably 3 years into his management. He's an absolute rookie still, but just see the difference. And he set a plan out. He had the boys focused, and like any good squad that you've played in, I've played in, if the team buy into it, you're halfway there. You need good characters. You need players who are going to look after the dressing room, and everyone's got to fight for each other, and that's what we did. And yes, we got in the Championship. Nobody expected us even survive in the Championship, and ridiculously, in our second year in the Champ, we won the Championship. We won it on the last kick of the last game. And
Fletcher, I mean, you look at the players, and some of the players now are fantastic, but there's still a core of players there. Yep. Well, probably not as many now, but you look at Coop, you look at Francis. There's still players there that were there in the lower leagues.
Yeah, Adam Smith, Charlie Daniels. That's a fullback forward.
And can you do me a favour? Can you get Eddie to give them a new contract? Because I can say to my kids, look, I played against them. And I know you didn't, Dan. I was like, honestly, I didn't. Do you know what I mean? And that for me is a sign of a good coach. If you can get players to coach them from playing in League Two and League One and then coming up and being able to carry it out on a regular basis in the Premier League shows what a good coach and what a good coaching staff you must have.
I think nine of the players we had in League One were playing in the Premier League in our first couple of seasons. I think 7 started the first Premier League game. Maybe 7 or 8 started the first Premier League game at home at Aston Villa in 2015. That were in League One when he came back in 2012. Incredible. But
it's incredible.
I was in recruitment. So the first question you would ask is this player you're giving me any better than the player I've got? Because he has to be considerably better for me to buy him. Because if I listen to you, Fletch, and I buy him, then this player who is in his position can't play for me. And I looked at it different, because he would have had to be astronomically better. Because what Ed says is, don't turn away what's under your nose. Because he is a good coach, because he's on the field and he's working on all their attributes individually, collectively, and he is relentless in coaching them. Every minute detail. He always says that to me, don't look any further than what's under your nose, because if then players are good enough and they can be coached, why go out and spend ridiculous amount of money on players when we've got players in there who are more than capable? And that's why them players played in the Premier League and still are today.
Do you think...
Sorry, mate, you mentioned Adam Smith there, and I've got to say, Hartlepool drew Bournemouth in the League Cup a few years ago, and Adam Smith played right back. Yeah. And I swear to God, he was that good that night. I was saying to people, you could lift him out of Bournemouth's team and put him in any side in League Two, and they'd have a chance of winning the league, because he was that good. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, and I remember Tyrone Mings played left back. And,
it was his debut.
It was his debut, you're right. He played, and we were very good that night. I mean, yeah, we changed the team around because it was the cup games, and Eddie always does that to give people a chance. But we were very good. We passed it. I think, looking at it now, and I can look at it now because I've played it low league, I've watched us come through the leagues, and then when we play teams, obviously 2 or 3 leagues below us, it's just the pace of which we play, the pace, the athleticism. And I remember that, I forgot who the manager was. Was it Ronnie? Was he manager then?
I'm not sure.
He just said, he just turned around and went, these Premier League players aren't bad, are they? And it was just like, it was because they're just a different animal. The athleticism is the main thing. Of course, you've got to be technically good, but if you're an athlete now, you've got a good chance of playing at a very high level, because that's just the way the game's gone. If you're not an athlete, you would have to be technically very good to play in the Premier League, because you look at all the top players, and even the players who are playing regularly year in, year out in the Premier League, they have something that makes them a little bit different to the rest of the players who are not in the Premier League. And Eddie got it out of them. I played with Adam Smith when we were in League One. We were fighting to stay in the league, and he worked his way up. So he's a prime example of what I've just been speaking about, a player who coached with Eddie and Jason and all the coaching staff, including myself, has thrived on that coaching. He's absorbed the information, he's took it on board, and he's went out and delivered it. And of course, going back to the other bit, Mickey, our second year, you then have to strengthen. And if you don't strengthen, other teams will. And we had opportunities to buy players. And I think we've recruited very well. The majority of players who come in have always played a big part in the team. You are going to get 1 or 2 over the years that it just didn't work out, and they go to other teams and they thrive in other teams, and that's just football. But what Eddie does is he never gets a player in, and within a couple of months makes a decision on him. He gives him time to digest everything Ed wants to do from Ed's philosophy, the way we want to play, the ethos, everything. And Eddie will give them a chance. He does not like to see a player fail who's been brought into the club, because if they've been brought into this club, then there's a reason, because they're looked at to be good enough and they should be part of the team. So there's not many players we've sold on if we could help it. I mean, we've added quality players. Of course, we have like Nathan Ake, Josh King, Callum Wilson. We've had some great players, and we're still trying to add to the team. But that player, whoever comes in, will not just be because, he's a good player, because everybody says so. Ed wants to look at all his attributes and what he's like as a character, what he's like outside of the changing room, and what he can bring to the team on and off the field.
When I was at Hartlepool, I used to see the odd young lad come on loan. I remember Steve Coulter came with Yeovil from Spurs as centre half, and he looked like a Rolls Royce. And you'd get the odd player. But the only other team I've seen where that Bournemouth team, you could pick 4 or 5 players out, and like Simo said, you could imagine them playing in the Premier. The only other team I remember doing that was a Southampton team that had Lallana, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and that group of players is a
didn't Gareth Bale and that as well, yeah.
And they just had that group where you think, there's not one good player here. There's 4 or 5, 6 that wouldn't be out of place in the top league, and they went on to play there. But you just sometimes see it in that Bournemouth team had it, like someone said, you could pick those players out, and they have gone on to prove that they can play in the Premier League.
And like I said, we'll give Eddie all the accolades, and absolutely right, and all the coaching staff. But then players have to take it on board. They have to have that drive, that desire, that will, that passion to go and play, and basically go and deliver what Eddie and the coaching team are giving them. Because you can be coached, every minute of every day of every week, but if you don't absorb that information and then go out and deliver it, it's wasted, and it's just it's thrown away. So credit to the players as well, basically, because they have basically changed their life around. And I have no qualms about them players, earning unbelievable money, because the effort they've put in to get from League One players and regular League One players to be solid Premier League players for the last 5 years is no more credit to them than they deserve, because they've been a credit to themselves, to their own family for doing what they've done.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking back at Eddie, then obviously he's been there such a long time, barring that trip away to Burnley. But has the last few weeks possibly been his biggest test of his own self-belief since the lockdown was lifted and things? And then to come through what happened on Sunday it must have been such a boost for everybody involved, because at half time I was watching the game and I was wondering where Bournemouth were going to get a goal from, and he's somehow done something, tweaked something at half time and completely changed that game.
You're 100% correct, absolutely. We obviously were level on points with West Ham and Watford, but on goal difference we were sitting third bottom before lockdown. Obviously, during lockdown, we got a few players back from injury. We'd had a horrendous injury list. I mean, even all the Premier League managers were texting Eddie and saying, "I just can't believe your team." And getting one player fit, you're getting one and losing 2. It was just astronomical, and it was beyond belief. And they were all top players. It was, no disrespect to the rest of the squad players, but we're talking about 6 or 7 starters every week. But listen, it's the way it is, and that's why you have a squad, and it gives other people opportunity. But it did hit us. It was terrible. But Ed would never say that. I'm saying it, but Ed would never say it, because he would never make an excuse up. And it's not an excuse, because you have a team for a reason. Other players have got to come in, but it just didn't happen. I mean, before we played Newcastle in November, before the international break, we were sitting something like 6th or 7th in the league. Newcastle beat us, and then it had been a downward spiral since then. We just couldn't get going over Christmas. Then into lockdown, we found ourselves battling against all the odds, and every time we got somebody fit, 2 would get injured in training, in games, and you think, this is just not meant to be. So it is, from what Micky said, it is Ed's biggest test, absolutely. And the game on Sunday, I'm sat in the stand, and I'm thinking, that's it, it's done. 1-0 at half time. If Nathan Ake hadn't made that challenge on Vardy and deflected it over the bar, we go in at half time 2-0 and the game's over. So without any expletives and having to bleep it out, it was all bust.
To be honest, I only actually watched the second half. I was out in the garden doing something. I came and watched the second half. I couldn't believe what everyone was talking about, because I just saw Leicester play really bad and Bournemouth play really well, and it just shows how football can change, that momentum in football, how it can change. And it doesn't matter what league, whether you're playing in the over 40s with me or you're playing in the Premier League. and I remember Mick Wadsworth saying to me, he said, if you can find a reason for the switch of momentum in football, you'll be a billionaire. Because if you can tell that why it happens, you'll be as rich as you want to be, because no one can work it out.
And you're right. It doesn't matter what level you play at. You can play for Real Madrid, Barcelona. You can play for Bournemouth and Hartlepool United. It doesn't matter what level. If that momentum swing is everything. I spoke to Steve Cook, our centre-half, who came off the bench for Nathan when he got injured. Afterwards, he just said to me, because he came on just before half-time when Nathan went off injured, and he said to me, I just felt like my feet were really light. I said, Cookie, it's because we were winning. And it doesn't matter if you're Premier League. He just couldn't get his head around it. I said, because you're winning. Because we've not had that feeling for a while. When you're getting beat or you're under pressure, your legs feel heavy. You do. And you must have felt that many times, Mickey. When you're winning and things are flowing and you're playing well and the team's playing well, you're winning your headers as a centre-half, you're passing it and wrapping the ball into the midfield. Everything just feels light. You feel light on your feet. You get that bounce, that stride. And it just proves you're right at any level. And we came in at half-time, we went 3-5-2, and we'd only had 2 days recovery before we played that game, so we had no time to work on it. We very rarely play 3 at the back, but we had to stop them having all the ball in midfield. So we went 3-5-2. We played the left side centre-half, who's a left-back, Diego Rico, who's 5'8". We put our right-back at left wing-back, because we had no other players. We were putting, to a degree, square pegs in round holes. But that momentum shift happened because we got a penalty. We scored the penalty within 2 minutes. Dominic Solanke scored his first Premier League goal, and you could feel the buzz around the place. And
you could see it, Fletch, on the telly. You could see how happy everyone was for him.
It was a 3-minute swing in a football game that looked like we were going out of the Premier League, and our time 5-year span was done. And it's just give us a glimmer of hope. And I'm hoping now with the other goals that went in, it could have been 5 or 6 at the end. That's going to give us the impetus. We have got Man City.
Fletch, without, I don't want to set you up here at all, but
you don't have to. It is what it is, mate.
I've watched Man City a couple of times this season, and I've watched them on the telly, and I'm crying out for someone to do something really radical against them. Do you know what? And think, if I get, it's probably not your situation or your time to do this, but just to do something totally different and come up with something that they wouldn't expect. And because I think if you sit off them, they are so good. You can't beat them at what they try to do. If you sit back, they'll eventually score. And I was watching the other day going, right, what sort of formation could you do that Pep would be like? And I'm thinking, nah, Mickey, you haven't got a formation in your head that Pep would be able to beat.
We'll put 10 players along the 18-yard box.
I honestly I still think they'll get through that, though, with ease.
Yeah, they'll find a way. They'll find a way. I'm just glad that they're not on fire at the moment before we play them, Listen, at the moment, as well as Manchester United, they're the most informed team in the country, probably in club football. We've never took a point off them in the Premier League in 5 years. If there's ever a time, when you play any of the top boys, of course, Liverpool and Manchester City even more, especially this season and last. But you play any of them big boys, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, Man U, Man City, Liverpool, you need them to have an off day. You need a bit of luck to go your way, and you need to be clinical. I mean, we've been beat off them at home 1-0 a couple of seasons ago, but we never do it, but we sort of parked the bus and we were never really in the game. It was a 1-0 comfortable win. We got beat off them the season before 2-1, and they scored in the 97th minute. Sterling deflected the ball from his right foot onto his left, and that's the closest we've come. And we didn't quite go toe-to-toe with them. Mickey's right, you can go toe-to-toe with them. They're the best players in the world. They'll tear you apart. They've torn Brighton, tried to play their way the other day, and fair play, they stuck to their philosophy, but they find a way and they punish you. You don't lose the ball and you get punished 1 every 2 or 3. You get punished every time, basically. So you've got to be so good on the ball. You can't go and press them. You can't go and try and match them because they're just unbelievable. That's what they want. So we've got to find a way. But you're right, talking about that momentum, you'd be a billionaire if you could find the way.
But you just think, though, in football, like when I was at Hartlepool, you were at Bournemouth, you used to play against a team, say at Tranmere, and if their centre forward normally or the winger wasn't playing, you'd be rubbing your hands thinking, oh, their best player's not playing today. We've probably got a good chance of beating them. With City, you take out 8 of their players and 8 just as good ones come in. You know, it's not a case of, I hope Sterling's not playing because someone else will come in and fill his boots. The depth of the squad is incredible.
Absolutely, and that's why they're one of the best teams in Europe in club football. So this new rule of having like 5 subs is sometimes they make all 5 subs, and all 5 of them players would walk into your team and be the 5 first names on the team sheet. So it is tough. You're right, but it's learning curves, and the players love to play against them teams. Of course, you wouldn't want to do it every single week because it would demoralise you. I mean, they've thumped us for a couple of times at home and away, but we have got close on a couple of occasions. And listen, it's proven that they can slip up. I mean, Huddersfield drew there a couple of seasons ago to keep their Premier League status 0-0.
Crystal Palace beat them there, didn't they?
Palace, you just need them to have an off day. Unfortunately for us, they're playing really well at the moment. But listen, it's football. You can't say you've not seen funny things happen, because you have. You just need everything to go your way.
I was watching with my boys the other day, and they were like, Dad, like, when you were at Hartlepool, which player would you have got out Man City team to make your team better? So I was like, well, do you know who I would take the goalkeeper? I said he would come into Hartlepool team, play him outfield, and he would have probably got us promoted.
You can tell.
I'll be flicking things on the 18-yard box.
His distribution is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
He puts it on a sixpence, doesn't he? So if they go short and you go tight, he can hit the fullbacks, he can hit the 9, he can drop it into the 10, but he doesn't just drop it in. He somehow zings it, and it's just phenomenal to watch. And I think that's just the modern day way that goalkeepers are looked to play now, especially from teams who want to play out.
I remember it from when I was coach. It was actually at Bournemouth with Coops, and we were really worried about coming down. Harry Redknapp was there at the time. I think was he an advisor or something like that. And we'd set this plan up, and on the day it worked absolutely brilliant. We had everything, all the team shape was brilliant, and I think we conceded in the last couple of minutes and drew 1-1. And I was like, as a coach, when you think, I've done my job today, I've set the team up properly, the players have done it, and we've just been unlucky. So I'm thinking, right, Harry Redknapp's going to come in and he's going to pat us on the back and say, hey, you're a young coach, that was absolutely brilliant today. So I've gone into the room. I can't remember who the manager was. It wasn't Eddie. It was Paul Groves.
Paul Groves.
Yeah, he was a manager. And I remember Harry Redknapp coming in. I had a beer, and I was like, right, this is me chance here. And he turned around as he went, do you know what won the 320 at Harrogate or something like that? And I was like, and that was it. He just talked about racing the whole time. And I stayed for about 25 minutes, and all I wanted was Harry Redknapp to say, you played well today, son, or something along those lines. And I was so disappointed. It was probably the highlight of the season for us as well.
All that way back up. I remember what happened. We scored in the 92nd minute. It was Matt Tubbs, the striker, scored.
That's right, yeah.
There was a mix-up in your defence. You went through and slipped it under the keeper in the 93rd minute.
Is that the one where Buster smashed the dugout?
Yeah. That was the one, because I wasn't in the squad that day. It was like, I wasn't really getting on with the management, and I was getting faded out before Eddie come back a little bit, which was fine. That's football. And I was watching from the stands, and I was like, "Oh dear, we're going to get beat." And Matt Tubbs scored in the last minute, really, and it must have been terrible to go all that way back home, because and listen, all them long trips that we've endured over the years, going far, and you lose a goal in the last minute, or you get beat 1-0, and it makes the journey back horrendous, doesn't it?
Oh, it's horrific. It's horrific. Right, Fletch, if we can, we'll go back to your career and how it started. Yep. And obviously, so you were at Hartlepool before me. When you got to the club, was that straight from school? And who were the sort of players that you looked up at the time? You're obviously a Hartlepool lad. Was there anyone that you played with that you looked up to as a sort of, not a hero, but as a player that you wanted to be like?
So what happened was, I was at school, I was 16, my birthday's on the last game of the season against Everton. Can you believe what that'll be like? Well, go one way or the other. Anyway,
I'll come down for that party, Fletch.
Oh man, it would be incredible, wouldn't it? So I was like a late developer at school, because obviously with the way the schools are, the 1st of September, I was always one of the youngest. So I had to wait, and then right at the end of May, somebody said, Hartlepool United are doing trials down at the power station. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
We used to. I think
we used to train there.
We used to train there towards the last year of my time there. And so I went down, there was millions of kids, got invited back to the second trial. This was to be a youth team player. And done really well in the second trial, scored a goal, set one up, thought I'd stood out. And then basically, as quick as this, afterwards, I was getting in the car with my parents. The manager, youth team manager, John Craggs, came up to me and was, do you want to come in on Monday and we'll speak about you being in the youth team? And I went into like, what's your YTS scheme then? I mean, you call it the youth team, YTS team. And I went in and there was only 11 of us. And I started and we had pre-season and we used to run up and down the sand dunes to see it. And then I had my second year and I got injured a lot in my second year. In that time, Bob Moncur, let me get this right, had lost his job. And then Cyril Knowles come in. And I got back fit around about March. So we were playing in the intermediate league. I think we played like Newcastle in the intermediate league. They had people like Steve Howie in there and Lee Clark. So they were a top team. And I played up front. So Cyril Knowles came down to watch. I forgot where we used to play the games. It wasn't in Hartlepool. It was just out of Hartlepool. But anyway, he came down to watch. And I was up front and played for 20, 25 minutes and got injured. So I'd waited months. Got myself back, but I'd had a good 25 minutes. I put on a bit of height, I got a bit bigger and won a few headers, and I was like, oh dear, and I'd done my knee, and it ended up being the knee that I had 11 operations on throughout my career, but I punctured a muscle in my knee, and it blew up, and I had to come off, and got back fit towards the end of the season, but only played in one reserve game at home. It was okay, I was okay, I wasn't great. I got on well with Cyril, but obviously back in them days you saw the manager of your youth team play, you didn't say much. And one by one at the end of the season we went in to see him as youth team players. Either basically yes or no, you're getting a contract, a pro contract, you're not. I'd already booked my place at Hartlepool College to go and be a PE teacher because I got my 5 O-levels at school, because I thought not a chance. He's seen me for 25 minutes and half a reserve game. Not a chance in this world he's going to want me. Didn't know what was going to happen. Went in thinking no, and I come out the happiest kid in Hartlepool. He said to me, I'm going to take a chance on you, big man. I like what I've seen. I was like, felt like crying. I probably come out and shed a tear and couldn't phone my parents because there was no mobile phones in there. So I was buzzing and I'm like, all the lads were looking at me like, what did he say? What did he say? I'm like, I just can't believe it. He's offered me a year's contract. And they were like, oh, wow. I think all the other youth team players thought, no chance. And the only other kid who got a contract was a player called Lee Todd. And then little lad who ended up going down to Stockport, and he ended up playing for Southampton as well, I believe. But everybody else got released. So he's took me on the fact of basically he liked big, strong lads who were going to fight for him. And what he'd seen in 25 minutes, because let me tell you now, we wouldn't be doing this interview, I don't think, and I wouldn't be where I'm at and doing the things I've done if it wasn't for Cyril Knowles taking an absolute gamble on me, because it was an absolute gamble. I mean, I went from then, played 1 or 2 reserve games that season, to starting the pre-season and then starting the first game away at Chesterfield. I mean, you couldn't go from one extreme to the other if you tried. All of a sudden, my heroes watching on the terraces, Joel and Paul Baker, I'm playing alongside them in the front 3 away at Chesterfield with Rob McKinn and Brian on at Tinks, Nobbs. I'm like, can you imagine what it was like, a Hartlepool lad on the terraces, watching these lads come through, watch these players, your heroes. Obviously, it started off with Bob Newton and John Bothwick and watching all them and seeing players come through and Dobson. I think I'm trying to remember them all now. I used to go watch the terraces. And then in the space of a blink of an eye, I'm up front with Joe Allen and Paul Baker. And
I tell you what, Fletch, I've played against you a couple of times and I played against Bakes a couple of times. I know Joe talks a good game, but I would not like to play against you when Bakes up front, because there'll be a few elbows flying around we used to.
Well, Bakes is the one that I had to model myself on some players at your level. Everybody wanted to look at, well, for me, it was like Mark Hateley, Lee Chapman, all big strikers. Of course, I wanted to be Ian Rush, but I wasn't built that way. I wasn't that type of player. He was my hero. I was a Liverpool fan. I wanted to be Kenny Dalglish. But you have to look at players who are like yourself to a degree. Duncan Ferguson, maybe, but them type of target, aggressive. But for me, in my era and the level I was at, Paul Baker was the one I said, well, I've got to try and do what Paul Baker's doing. What is he doing? And he helped me massively. He was the only one really pulled me aside and did things with me. So every time I speak about Hartlepool and the team we got promoted in my first year, Paul Baker to me was my hero. And we went at our 25th anniversary in 2016. We got a get together. We had it at Seaton Carew Club, and I said on stage, he got us up one by one, and Joe Allen, like, he did hosted it because he was a good compare. And I just said,
there's a shock.
Yeah, mic off him. But when I did get the mic off him, I spoke about everybody in the team, but Paul Baker was the one that brought my game on, and the one I looked at and thought, I want to do what he's doing, because at that level he was a great player. He was strong, physical. He got a few goals. He made it difficult for the defenders, and that had to be my job. And that first season, I think I started maybe 12 games. I was sub 20 odd times. I was involved most weeks, and we got promoted. So you can imagine your first year as a pro, which you didn't even imagine would happen. We never really played many reserve games, and I'm in a squad, and we get promoted for one of the only few times at that time in Hartlepool's history, with all them players I've mentioned, all them heroes on the terraces, them legends, and then all of a sudden we're in League One. And Joe Allen got his move, and rightly so, to Chelsea. Paul Baker stayed. I think Andy Saville come in later that year, and we signed Lenny John Rose. I mean, obviously, it's horrendous what's happened to him, and such a top lad. And I was in and out for the second season, in and out. Obviously, horrendous for me and for the whole of Hartlepool United and the town. That Cyril Knowles passed away with a brain tumour. I mean, it broke me up, that did, because, like I said to you, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here now. And he put all his faith in me and gave me that opportunity, and I was absolutely distraught. I didn't know what to do. I was inconsolable. And
Fletch, I think a lot of people outside of football don't realise how, especially when you're a young lad. I had it with a coach, and he's passed away as well, called John Pickering at Middlesbrough. And because you're spending so much time and they're giving you so much advice on and off the pitch, that you almost look at them like another dad, another father figure to you. That you want. And I had it with John. I was desperate. And John was a brilliant coach. He worked with us in the first team. I was desperate to try and impress him every time, so he could say something nice about me, so he could give me a positive. And it's like when you go home, you tell your dad something, and he said, "Oh, well done, son." And a lot of footballers have that coach that looks after them and you look up to, don't they?
Of course, you have your parents, and good parents will always be there. But sometimes you need something different, somebody else, because you listen to your parents every day, of every minute, of every week, of every year, and you need another voice sometimes. And I remember a story. We were doing okay, but he come in the changing room, and Cyril could be ruthless, by the way. He was brilliant with me. He loved me to bits, but if you weren't playing for him and giving your everything, he could be ruthless. And he went round the changing room one by one, and he said to Don Hutchinson, because Don was in the team, then he obviously went to Liverpool. He went, 2 players are going from this football club. Obviously, Joe Allen had gone to Chelsea already, and I think Paul Dalton had gone to Plymouth. So apart from that, they'd already gone. He went, Don Hutchinson, Steve Fletcher, you're going places. The rest of you've got to pull your socks up. So for me, when he passed away and he left, I felt like, as much as I wanted to do it for my family, for my granddad, who taught me everything because he was a professional and played for Hartlepool, went on to play for England, and Derby County won the FA Cup. I wanted to do it all for them, for my mum and dad, for everybody, my friends. But deep down, I wanted to do it for Cyril as well, because he put his faith in me. In that one little conversation and pointing at me in the changing room, I was like, oh, wow, this person believes in me. He thinks I can go and do something with my life, my career. And I wanted to do it for him. And that, a lot of that in my early years was what drove me on. Because Don Hutchinson did go to Liverpool. Obviously, I didn't go to the heights of Liverpool, but can't really compare to Bournemouth. But, I got a decent move to Bournemouth. In what would have been my third year at Hartlepool, I just, I didn't see my pathway being opened up at Hartlepool, and I just took an opportunity. And
so what obviously, distance-wise, Fletch, it's a long way. Was there any? Was it? I was going to say, I bet you've done it a few times. Was there any in your head that you didn't want to go, or were you always, when you heard about the interest from Bournemouth, was it, I'm going?
I'll tell you what happened quickly. So I went into pre-season. We were midway through pre-season. Said Alan Murray wants you in the manager's office. It's like, I was just getting ready for training. Went in there. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I haven't been out. I haven't been on the drink with Tinks. I've done nothing wrong. It was pre-season. I'd been a good boy, and he just said to me, look, he said, I've had Bournemouth on the phone. and their manager, Tony Pulis, because Harry Redknapp had went to West Ham as assistant manager with Billy Bonds, and Tony Pulis had took over. Now, I didn't realise at the time, but on the last game of the season, the previous season, which would have been 91-92 season, we played Bournemouth last game of the season at home, Hartlepool, and we beat them 1-0. I played up front with Lenny John Rose, he got the goal, we won 1-0. And Tony Pulis saw me and thought, like that lad, might be able to sign him. I didn't know any of that, obviously. And Alan Murray said to me, look, they've come in for you. We're offering 30,000 with 20,000 add-ons. It's good money. I'm prepared to let you go down there and talk to them. The board are divided, I think he said. Some don't mind, some want the money, some want you to stay. He said, look, I've got Paul Baker, I've got Lenny John Rose, we're going to bring in others. I don't want to block your pathway. Why don't you go down and speak to them, see what you think, and if you don't want to be down there, come back and fight for your place. So I had nothing to lose. I just got home, got the map of the British Isles out, and went Bournemouth. Oh my God, it's at the other end of the country. I was like, Dad, where's Bournemouth? And he was like, I think it's on the south coast. I went, well, can you drive me there? So we literally left training at 10 o'clock, went home, told my parents. Dad said, I'll drive you down, and because I'd never drove really past going shopping in Middlesbrough and going up to the Metro Centre really in my car. So he took me down to Bournemouth. It took about 6 hours in the middle of July. We got there. The manager met us, put us in a lovely hotel on the seafront. Imagine how beautiful Bournemouth was. And I looked at my dad. I was like, wow, this is an incredible place. It was about 28 degrees. It was a hotel. It was like going to Benidorm, basically. It was like, but I got took to the training ground. They were really friendly, but I had a decision to make, and I had 24 hours to make it. And I panicked. I didn't know what to do. And, you know, I'd been a hometown lad playing for my hometown club. Never really been away from my parents as such to a degree, maybe on holiday with my friends, but that's it. And I had a decision to make to move to another club at the other end of the country. And I suppose, in no other certain terms, I just took the plunge. My dad said, why not? What's the worst that could happen? I was offered a 3-year contract. It wasn't about the money. I think the money went from £150 a week at Hartlepool to 300 at Bournemouth. But, you know, in the scheme of things, it wasn't that. It was the opportunity to have a manager who wanted me to play for him in Tony Pulis. And this is incredible, right? So we went down on the Wednesday night. We drove back Thursday morning to Hartlepool after I'd seen the manager. I came back on the Friday, drove back down myself with all my stuff. We played Aston Villa in a pre-season friendly on the Saturday, and then I drove back to Hartlepool. And then back Monday morning, Sunday night, ready for Monday morning training. I've been to Bournemouth and back. So it's a 700-mile round trip. I did it 3 times in 4 days. I did how much did I do? I did 2,100 miles in 4 days.
Fletch,
I go into training Monday morning. I was absolutely wrecked.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you know, when you go that far, do you think, I mean, I don't know how often you came home. You might have come home every weekend, I don't know. But do you think being so far away is actually a help? If you're a couple hours away, you might have been driving home during midweek and every weekend to see your mates and that. But because you're so far away, do you think that sort of, it says, right, I'm down here and I'm going to stick at it and I'm going to put me all into it being away from home?
I came home I was pre-season, but there was only half of pre-season left. So maybe came home once more. And I think Tony pulled me and said, look, can't keep travelling, Fletch. It's going to take a lot out of you, big man. You know, it's a long trip. You're in the car for 5-6 hours there, 5-6 hours back. I want you to be fresh. So I was like, okay. So I stopped going up. Obviously, it was tough. But like I said, there's no mobile phones. I was living in digs, and I had to ask the landlady to use the phone to phone my parents if there's any problems. And it was the first couple of years was hard because I know players move around the country now, you know, at the drop of a hat, but there wasn't many young 19-year-olds who went from one end of the country to the other. And like I said, I took the plunge, and it made me develop as a person. It made me stand on my own 2 feet. It made me man up, really, in some respects. I had to learn how to cope with things and deal with things on a regular basis, day-to-day business as a person, because I couldn't just phone my parents up and say, oh, you couldn't help me with this. Of course, they did what they could, but it was almost sink or swim for me. And I found it very difficult for the first 2 years, to a point when Tony Pulis got the sack after 2 years, that our new manager come in, Mel Machin, and I told one of the other coaches that I wanted to leave, and I wasn't happy. The fans weren't really behind me somewhere. And I was getting a lot of abuse of some of the supporters because I wasn't scoring loads of goals. But I think they forgot I was 19. But in their eyes, they'd seen me come in to play regularly, replace a good goal scorer in Jimmy Quinn, the old striker up front. And he was a good goal scorer, and he left and I came in and the goals didn't come. And I remember being in, I think it was in the supporters bar, and there's just a supporter come up to me and he said, listen, Fletch, he said, you don't have to score every week. If you work your socks off at this club, he said, the supporters will get behind you. He said, of course you want to score goals. He said, but the supporters will love you if you close down, you show 100% commitment. And I thought, well, that's the least I can do. And the following year, it just changed for me, and I won Supporters Player of the Year. I played centre half for a while because we got so many injuries. We had a great escape season where we only had 10 points at Christmas and we were like 12 away from the drop, and we stayed up on the last day. And my whole time and moments at Bournemouth and changed, the supporters that weren't with me were with me, and I still was a bit Marmite. I was still like the love, but the swing, the pendulum swung in my favour of more people like me because I was ready to commit everything I had. And I had a couple of half-decent seasons where I got 12 goals, 15 goals, but I was never going to be a relentless goal scorer. But what I did was I made sure I worked hard and I supplied a lot of goals, and I was a nuisance. And we had some successful teams, and I think the fans sort of like, I got them on my side through that. But there was times I wanted to leave. I was in my digs crying. I was upset with the abuse I was getting, and I'm not talking about saying we don't want you down here, why don't you go back to Hartlepool? I'm on about proper horrible abuse, and I would never want to say that to my children. With the things that some of the supporters said to me was absolutely vile. It was absolutely horrendous, and it affected me. I'm not going to lie, it affected me, and I didn't want to be there. And there's only myself really got myself out of it through a mindset, and I think that comes back to your upbringing, your parents, all the things you went through when you were younger, determination, because I could have easily just sacked it off and went, oh, I don't want it, it's not for me. It's hurting me too much. But like I said, it's sometimes in life, not just football, in any walk of life, you have to sink or swim. And
it's that inner drive, Fletch, and it's that because you want to do something so much that you'll put up with it. You'll say, I'll give it another 6 months, or I'll give it another 6 weeks, and sooner or later, and luckily for yourself, it turned on or maybe a goal or a performance, or you say an escape. You know what I mean? And that's sometimes all it takes, especially I think for a centre forward, and especially, and it comes with a territory. Stevie, I would very similar to yourself.
Good player, good goal scorer.
Like people would divide. He doesn't score enough goals, but then he would score a crucial goal. And but do you know what I mean? I think sometimes because of your stature as well, people are expecting you to score, but they don't realise how many goals you're setting up for other people and how vital you are in the team.
No, you're 100% right. I always say big players stand out. So when you're doing well, you stand out more. When you're not, you stand out for negative reasons. And when I was winning my headers and I was setting goals up, I was nicking the odd goal. Of course, things were great. When I was missing chances, that seemed to get magnified 10 times more than any other player. And you're right, Stevie Howard, I used to look at him and he got moves to the Championship a lot of his career at the second level of English football. And unfortunately, I didn't. But the probably difference between me and him was he scored more goals than me. He wasn't better in the air than me. He wasn't better at holding the ball up. I think I was as good as any in the leagues, but getting 15, 20 goals a season is what Stevie Howard did. And I would have loved to emulate what he did because he was a big, strong, powerful lad, and he got goals. But like I say, when you're at any club, I mean, you were loved at Hartlepool, and you're recognised as probably one of the best players in the club's history. I suppose I am to a degree now.
Fletch, you've got to be one of the best players. You've got a stand named after you. And it's got your picture on the top. We didn't even know it had a picture on as well.
I think that's the longevity of my time at the club. But and obviously like you had as well, fantastic. But the fans took to you straight away at Hartlepool. The fans.
Micky's got a street named after him.
Why to?
Yeah, the house prices went down as soon as you put my name on it.
I had to win the fans over at Hartlepool. I'd come in and when Joanna left, it was me and Paul Baker and Lenny John Rose. And when I got my chance when Bakes was injured, I had to come in and do what Bakes did. And some fans liked me and some didn't. being a hometown lad at Hartlepool, it was tough. It wasn't one of them, well, they just put their arms around you. And, Hartlepool's a tough town. It's a working man's town. As I call them, men are men. And, you used to get abused. If you weren't doing it, you got abused, and they let you know. So my time at Hartlepool was tough, but I was just starting to make a headway. And, thinking I could break into the squad regularly rather than being a big player here and there. And so the first 4 years, if you include the 2 at Hartlepool of my career, were a tough awakening, really. And like I say, it could have went the other way. But I think just that determination to go back to what I said about wanting to do it for my parents, but also Cyril Knowles, I didn't want to give up. I'm not a person who gives up. You're going to have to hold me down with chains to stop me trying, because the least you can do in this world is try.
I've read, Steve, just about that determination you had and the inspiration from, you mentioned Cyril Knowles and the impact he had on your career, but I've read little bits and pieces about how much of an impact your granddad had as well. Obviously, you come from a football heritage there as well, and your granddad was such a good player, wasn't he? That he must have helped you massively in the early days.
Yeah, when you're younger and he's grabbing you and he's saying, right, come in the back garden, we're going to just learn your basics. And I'm on about chest, half volleys, passing left foot, right foot. At the time, obviously being 8, 9-year-old, you look at that and go, well, I want to be out with my friends because they're all hanging around the swings and on the street corners and doing things that shouldn't really probably be doing. But the granddad was like, no, come on, we're going in the back garden. And we'll just throw 5 yards away, headers, chest, knee, little skills, little basics. And you look at it now, we're still doing it to this day. So although the coaching wouldn't have been anywhere near what it is now, them basics are there, the fundamentals are there. You speak to any top player in any sport, from Michael Jordan in the NBA to whoever, Cristiano Ronaldo in football, the basics, the fundamentals, they never go away, and you learn them, and you learn them young. They stay with you for life. So although I was a big lad and renowned for my heading, I've still got a nice touch. I've still got, I can still hold the ball up. I can still pass with both feet to a degree. Maybe not the top level, but that comes from my granddad doing all those basic skills with me week in, week out for the years that he was with us. Unfortunately for me, and it still sort of haunts me to this day. He passed away 2 months before I, made it as a footballer, and it was always his life's ambition to see me as a player. And he died when I was 15. Unfortunately, he was 72, but he was a top player, and he played for Derby County, won the FA Cup. He played for England, and started off at Hartlepool. He played for some big teams and played at the top level for many years. And I never reached the heights he did. I mean, I played a lot of games, 836, but I'd like to think that I did him proud as well, and from all the time and effort he spent with me when I was younger.
Well,
I think, sorry, Simo, talking about the fundamentals, Fletch, when I was at Middlesbrough, I had a coach called Ray Train. He used to play for Sunderland. He was really hard on the white yeses. He was a reserve team manager. But he used to want to play head tennis for hours and hours and hours after training. So we would sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock would still be playing head tennis. And I for the whole of lockdown, I've had a head tennis net set up outside my house, a little cul-de-sac. And my boys and anyone who wants to play, I'll play head tennis for as long as I can, because I think if you can, it's just simple basics, control, moving your feet, getting the ball back, using your head, little angles. It's all the stuff you need. And my kid's like, Dad, will I ever beat you? And I was like, you'll only beat us when I can't walk. Yeah. Because I've done those fundamentals for every day of my life for so long that I know what I'm doing. And I think it is, you grow up with them, don't you?
Absolutely. And at Hartlepool, every day we had like where the changing rooms were, I don't know what it turned into, but it was like almost like a garage, a big garage, open concrete floor. And we used to put a net across and we'd play pairs every day. Me and Paul Bolton, Baker, Joe Allen, everyone. And you're right, head tennis, you get so much out of it. Our manager, Eddie Howe, has 3 boys. He has them in his garden playing head tennis. And now they've got them tech ball tables, and we've got them at the club.
Oh, yeah.
Mate, you can see, I know it sounds ridiculous, you can see Premier League players playing on that for 3 or 4 weeks, and then when they go out, their touch is better, their movement, their posture, the way they hold the ball, their approach onto it, their technique, everything is better. And I always would say, especially when you're young, do that all day long. Do never stop your kids until they fall asleep on the court. You can never do enough head tennis because it brings out every aspect of football and the basics.
I remember Danny Wilson saying to me, he was like, Micky, I you judge your player first time in training and you'll think, could he be my head tennis partner? And if the answer's yes, you know you've got a good player.
Absolutely.
But it's true because, I mean, we've had players over the years that wouldn't be able to control, wouldn't play, and I'm like, nah, I don't want him as my partner because I want to win and I want, you know what I mean? And it's true. You see those fundamentals, the basic control. You look at Humps, yeah, I'd have Humps. You look at Mark Tinkler, yeah, I'll have Tinks. Those type of players, because they're comfortable on the ball, they go out onto the pitch and you see it.
Yeah, and like I say, you can never do the basics good enough. There's a documentary on Kobe Bryant, and you can see it on YouTube. And I think a reporter or something says, "I'll meet you. Can I come and watch you train?" He said, "What time is training?" He said, "At 4 a.m." So he thought, "I'll beat him to the gym," and he went at 3:30, and Kobe Bryant was already there. And he said he went through for an hour basic drills that he was teaching 14 and 15-year-olds at college. So apparently he went to Kobe Bryant and said, "Why do you do them basics? They're the things." He said, "Why do you think I'm so good?" "Because I do the basics. You can never beat the basics." He said he did it for an hour before he even started his proper training at 4:30 a.m. or whatever it was. And that just hit home with me. And I was like, I've got 2 daughters, but if I ever had a boy, I would, until he fell asleep and dropped, I would be doing the basic skills with him. Left foot, right foot, balance, technique, volleys. You can never get enough of it.
The best I've ever seen do was Nick Barmby at Middlesbrough. Barnes used to go out before training, he would set up the cones and he would just in and out the cones, left foot, right foot, turn at the top. And he'd probably spend 20, 25 minutes, half an hour every morning doing it. And but he wouldn't want anyone to notice, or he was just doing it because he knew that would help him in training in the games. And religiously, every single day, it was 20 minutes, half an hour. The other lads maybe having a cup of tea, but he knew he needed to practice that to make him better.
Well, doesn't Harry Redknapp always say about Frank Lampard, last one off the training pitch, he would just be there. And Ronaldo, when he was at Man United, when he was younger, he said he was there for an hour afterwards, and they don't become the best in the business at their position just by luck. Nobody picks up a football and goes, "Hey, look at me, I'm good at football." It just doesn't happen. You know, people say he's gifted. I don't think you're gifted. I think you have to work at that gift. You might have good attributes. You might be physically strong. You might have good genes. You might be tall. You might be athletic. You might have a good metabolism, whatever. But you have to work at it. You don't just pick a football up and go, "Hey, look at me, I'm unbelievable." You work and you work and you work.
Yeah.
These players, and you know, if I have any regrets, it is because I didn't work enough on many aspects of my game. And we all have hundreds of regrets, and I do. And I wish I'd done this, and I wish I'd done that. But my biggest regret was I wasn't hard enough on myself, and I didn't practice enough on not just what I wasn't good at, but also what I was good at, and make it even better. And if I could rewind time, that would be the first thing I'd do. Work more and work more on what I needed as a footballer.
I know you mentioned it earlier on, Fletch, about the goal that you scored against Grimsby and the folklore that goes down at Bournemouth. But if we can just talk about that in a bit more detail, because it must have just been an incredible. I know the shirt came off and everything, didn't it? It was such an emotional moment.
It was, because I was at Crawley and Eddie got the job on January the 1st or New Year's Eve, and I was with a wife. And obviously Eddie had watched come through the youth team. I'd spent 15 years with him as a player. He'd be my roommate. He was one of my best mates. And my missus said to me, "Are you going to phone him up and congratulate him?" And I was like, "Nah, he's going to phone me up. He's going to ask me to come back." We both laughed about it. And on January the 3rd, he phoned me up. He went, "Biggin, what are you doing?" "What do you mean?" He went, I want you to come back." And I went, "Mate, I've got 18. I said, "Don't say that to me, don't, mate," because it was making me all nervous. I was like, "Mate, I'm 36. You don't want me back." He went, "Biggin, I want you back." I said, "Mate, I've got 18 months left at Crawley." He went, "Well, get out of it." I said, "I can't get out of a contract." I said, "Steve Evans is my manager, and you know what Steve Evans is like." He's a crazy man. I love him to bits, but he's crazy. And he went, "I want you back." He said, "I've got 21 games to go." He said, "The deadline is end of January. You have to have you." He said, "We're in an embargo. I need you to come back." He said, "You can only match your wages at Crawley." It wasn't nothing really. We're in the Blue Square Premier League. We were doing all right as well. Crawley, we're in the top 4 or 5. I was like, how the hell am I going to go to Steve Evans and say I want to leave and go back to Bournemouth? So I just laughed Eddie off, and then he'd phone me up, and we had a couple of games in between, and he'd be like, don't get injured. I'm like, "Mate, I'm not coming back. You're crazy." But then a week or two passed, and it got to about the middle of January, and it was playing on my mind. I couldn't sleep. And obviously, I told my family, and 90% of people said, Fletch, you've had 15 years, don't go back. They're 10 points adrift at the bottom. Eddie's lost his first 2 games away at Darlington and Rotherham. They're going to go out the Football League. They're going to go into administration, probably into liquidation. Don't go back, don't go back. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I know I can't. I've got 18 months on my contract. I'll just see that out here, and what will be, will be. We'll see what happens. But I was laying in bed, it was playing on my mind. And then my missus said to me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go back. She said, well, just go. So I went and seen Steve Evans. I plucked up the courage. He went to me. Are you really being serious? I said, Steve, if it was anyone but Bournemouth, I wouldn't be in your office now. Mate, I walked backwards and forwards 3 times before I went in the office.
Before you did.
My heart was going like that. I was like, this dude's is going to go off his nut at me. He's going to go mental.
No, that's not like Steve to go off his head, is it?
Mate, I've seen some things in them 6 months. Good and bad. What a man. Things I couldn't tell you about. I plucked up the courage. I went, Steve, I need to get it off my chest. I was almost in tears. I said, listen, I'm really sorry. Eddie's been on the phone. He wants me back. What do you think? And he said, what do you want to do? So he put the ball straight in my court. I said, listen, Steve, if it was anyone, and I mean anyone, well, obviously apart from Liverpool, but if it was anyone but Bournemouth, I wouldn't even be in the office. He said, if it was anyone but Bournemouth, you wouldn't be in my office, Fletch. So he said, give me 24 hours. If I can find a striker to replace you, I'll do the honour because I love you to bits and I'll let you go back to the club you loved.
Fair play.
I waited Wednesday, waited Thursday, and he phoned me up Thursday night, which was the night before the deadline, which would have been Friday morning. He said, I've got a player called Robbie Matthews. He was at Salisbury or something. He said, go and enjoy your last couple of years. He said, I love you to bits. Thank you very much. He said, but you go. And I woke up Friday and I ran into the football club and there was nobody there because we had this embargo and waited and waited, signed on my contract. Went and got a quick strap in because my thigh was dodgy and Eddie dragged me off the physio bench. Went onto the pitch, we were training on the pitch and he had all the players giving me a guard of honour. He had them all giving me a guard of honour as I walked out. A bit of tongue in cheek, but you know what? That tongue in cheek just made me feel like, wow, this is big. And I played every game. He brought me in to gel the team together, to be a vocal person in the changing room, to maybe come off the bench now and then, but we were playing Wycombe Wanderers at home the next day, and he said, look, they're top of the league, I want you to start, are you fit to start? I said, yeah, I'll start for you. And I played every game for him like it was my last game, and I played better at 36-year-old than when I played at 16, 26, whatever, because I played for him, and it was a bit like playing for Cyril Knowles. I played because he believed in me, he showed faith in me, he's my friend, all these things, and we beat Wycombe 3-1, they were top of the league, they were flying high, they were 4 or 5 points clear at the top, we beat them 3-1, and we worked our way from them 10 points all the way to the last home game of the season. And it's the first game I've ever went into and thought, this is my destiny. 36 years of age, I actually believe once I'm going to score the winning goal. We went 1-0 down at half-time against Grimsby. They were in the bottom 2 with us. We were both fighting the still. So it was a team that was in and around us. It was us or them, basically. We scored straight after half-time to make it 1-0. We had a full house, 10,000, pitch invasions, and then 80th minute, I just had this feeling, I have to score. This is the reason I've come back. My life is going to change at 36. And the ball got crossed in. Our lad headed it down. I chested it and smashed it in the roof of the net from the penalty spot. And then the shirt come off and running down. I got halfway down towards Eddie and the players just piled on me. And it is the best feeling I've ever had in my life. I was crying. I ran up the steps to my wife and kids after the game and was just in tears that just the group of players and to achieve what we'd achieved. Everyone had written us off. For me, it was a personal thing as well as the team thing because I'm 36 and I'd waited all my life for that one moment. Yeah. My destiny really. And like I say, I wish I'd gone into every game thinking I was going to score, but it's bizarre, isn't it? Yeah. I never did. And then as the minutes ticked on, I'm thinking, I'm going to get the win. I'm going to get the win. This was the reason I come back. This is the reason I put everything on the line for my family, for Cyril Knowles, for my granddad, for everything that's happened in my career. And then the 5 years after that, because I played till I was nearly 41, we got promoted the next year. I ended up assistant manager. We got promoted to the championship, and I had more drama in the last 4.5 years of my career than I'd had in the previous 19. It was crazy, and you just never know what's around the corner in football.
Yeah. I think, though, Fletch, I mean, you look, as you say, that goal, Bournemouth might not even exist as a club now if that goal's not scored. So it's an iconic moment, isn't it, in your career and the club? And I was saying to somebody, come on, I've never, ever seen anyone play when they've got a stand actually named after them when they're still playing. Do you know what I mean? How did that come around, and how did it feel the first time when you went on the pitch and there's a stand named after you? But like, obviously, if you retired, or I can understand, but you were still playing in the game. The lads must have given you some stick, surely, about that. You must have gone.
Beyond belief, mate. I took absolute pelters left, right, and centre. Not just from my own teammates, but the opposition. And we were playing away from home. I think it was Grimsby away. Eddie Howe said, "Look, chairman wants to see you upstairs just before we leave on the coach on a Friday morning." Went up there, thought I'd done something wrong again, but I knew I hadn't. I'd been very sensible. I mean, I was 37, 38 years of age. And he said, "I want to rename the North Stand, the main stand behind the goal after you." And I was just, didn't know what to say. I mean, for the first time in my career, I was dumbstruck. I was like, I basically want to say to him, "You're taking the piss." The chairman, he was the chairman. I went, "All right." And he showed me the plans. He said, "I'm not joking." I went, "I don't know what to say. I'm humbled, honoured, proud, excited." And he showed me it, and he said, "What do you think?" I was like, "Yep, that'd be very nice. Thank you." Mate, I just wanted to jump up and down. I got on the couch and I thought, and Eddie Howe said, "You happy?" I went, "Am I happy?" Give him a big kiss. I was on the phone with my mum and dad, all my friends in Hartlepool. I went, "You can't believe they're going to name the stand after me." And then someone said to me, "But doesn't that happen when you retire?" I went, "Maybe they're trying to tell me something." I don't know. But mate, it was an honour, and it got on the local news, and then they put it out there into England and then Europe, and asked the question, has anyone had a stand named after them while they were still playing, like Micky said. And it usually happens when people retire or unfortunately pass away. And nobody ever come back with anything. We definitely know it hasn't in the UK and in Britain, but we also think in Europe. So if that's the case, I'm very honoured. It was bizarre. I've played all the opposition. It was usually the opposition who were facing that way. You had to say to me, "Fletch, do I have to look up there and see your big ugly 45 minutes?" Because this thing was astronomical, mate. It was like 2.5 meters high by 1.5 meters wide. Probably a replica of my actual head, because obviously I've got a long face. But listen, at the end of the day, that big face was bizarre. But I was so proud of it. Every time I looked up, I was like, nobody can take that away from me. And as much as I experienced some amazing moments, I played at Wembley in an auto windscreen final from the 70,000, got 1 hat-trick, played at the Millennium Stadium, scored in a playoff final win, broke the club record appearances. All that is brilliant because that's on the field. But when you're growing up as a kid, of course, what I'm trying to say is you have them dreams. You want to play for Liverpool, like, or whatever your favourite team is, you want to play in an FA Cup final. But I've done certain things that I never dreamed of, like, say, walking out of Wembley, blah, blah, blah. But to have that as an honour is something you don't even contemplate in your mind. Not even when you're growing up, but when you're playing, you don't.
No.
And it was an amazing thing. And, you know, people even say to me now, it's like, "Fletch," it's like, "Wow." And I said, "I know." And it's funny because we're playing Premier League teams now, right? And you see the managers when they sit in the dugout an hour and a half before the game, and they're looking up at that stand and they're going, and I think it was Jose Mourinho said to me, "Is that you?" Like, "Yeah, that's me." He went, "Very good, very good." I was like, "Thank you." He went, "Very proud?" I went, "Yes, very proud." He said, "Nice." And then that was it, right? I was like, "Oh my God, Jose Mourinho." Just had a chat with him about my stand. I ran out to reception, picked up my mobile, for my parents, for my mates, for my missus. I was like, me and Jose Mourinho looked up at me, and it's happened once or twice, and it's just bizarre. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times we play in the Premier League, how many times we're there. And every time I chat with Jurgen Klopp, and it might be for 10 seconds, Jose Mourinho always makes an effort and comes and speaks. Or even if you just basically say a couple of words to people like Pep Guardiola, "Mate, I can't wait to get home and tell all my friends and family about the 10-second chat." And I had a little bit on here and there, of course you do. I'll never get bored of that. And That's why long may it continue. But I'm a
Fletch,
realist. I was brought up in Hartlepool. I'm a realist, and for that to happen, I mean, I'm even friends with Kenny Dalglish, my hero. It's like it's crazy. He loves Bournemouth, and he's always in La Manga when we're there, when we go pre-season training. And he calls me Fletch. And the first time he called me Fletch, I nearly broke down in tears. He remembered my name. He was my hero beyond belief. I used to cry when Liverpool got beat as a team, and Kenny Dalglish was my ultimate hero. And for him to actually even remember my name, never mind have a chat, that was me. I was done. I'm happy. I can die.
Can you see, Fletch, can you see now why I was so gutted about Harry Redknapp?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah? Goes full circle, doesn't it?
He's Harry's got other things going on. He's a character, isn't he?
It definitely is. Fletch, the stand is brilliant, and your career has been absolutely amazing. But there's one big question, and you probably know what's coming. Yeah, a lot of the lads want to know why you started taping your shirt up, and did it just become like a superstition? Yeah. Was it something that you did and you had a good game, or?
So I'll round this up in 45 minutes, as I usually do. Right, so I got injured. I had a bad knee injury in 2002. I had a microfracture on my femur. I had a condyle defect. It's what Alan Shearer, Jamie Redknapp had to retire with. And I was out for 14 months. I'd had 6 operations. They told me I'd never play again, blah, blah, blah. I came back after 14 months and we played Lincoln away. And stupidly, the kit man, as they do back in the day, he'd brought me a long sleeve shirt. And I was like, his name was Bernie. I said, Bernie, where's my short sleeve shirt? I'm on the bench. The manager's Sean O'Driscoll's asked me to be on the bench. I've been back training a couple of weeks. I'm on the bench. I'm back 14 months out. Bernie, where's my short sleeve shirt? Never wore a long sleeve shirt in my life. It's in the kit. No, it's not Bernie. It's not in the kit. I was like, oh my God, you've only brought the short long sleeve shirt. Jesus Christ. So I went, give me the scissors. Give me the scissors. I'm cutting the sleeves off. I'm not playing in a long sleeve shirt. He went, just roll it up. I went, no. But in the 14 months I was out, I'd been in the gym a lot, right? I bulked up. I realised my knee was dodgy. I wouldn't be able to, not that I was a great runner, but I wouldn't be able to twist and turn. I almost had to adapt my game. So I put on a lot of strength. I become even bigger and stronger. So I thought, well, I've got to try and manage my way through the next couple of years to have any type of career. So I cut the sleeves off, and I swear on my children's lives, I cut them too high, right? So I meant to cut them about there, and I cut them about there, right? And I was like, oh my God, it looks like a wrestler. Right? So I thought, well, I can't do anything about it. In them days, you only take one shirt. Didn't have another shirt. So I'm pulling them down. It didn't work. So I'm coming out against Lincoln. I came on after 70 minutes, and my sleeves were like that. And I remember one of their players said, Jesus Christ, this geezer looks like the ultimate warrior. And we won the game 2-1. And although I didn't cut the sleeves off, what I thought was, do you know what? Give me a bit of an edge. I felt like, like, come on then, let's have it. And all I did was I put some tape around my arm, like the captain would, and I pulled my sleeves up and just rolled them under a bit, so my biceps were showing. I thought, well, I've worked 14 months for this, I'm just going to show off what I've got. And it gave me an edge, and everyone used to say, I thought, listen, I've got to do what I've got to do to stay in the game at 32-year-old. And if it gives me an edge over the defenders, it makes them a little bit wary of me, I'll keep doing it. And you're right, it was a superstition. And I carried it on basically all the way through my career until I retired at 41 years of age. So, yes, it was bizarre how it happened. And then in the end, I was like, you know what, I'm having this, I like it. I mean, Armin Traore does it in the Premier League at the moment, but he doesn't really need to tape them up, does he? He just does the gun show. I don't think it would have worked on these little things, like. Yeah, but you were a ball player. You didn't need them. I needed to go up against people like Mickey Nelson and defenders like that. You know, Sean Gregan and Morrison. I was playing against them week in, week out, and you needed a bit of brute strength to even cope with defenders like that.
Fletch, just before we go on to the questions at the end, as I said to someone, I don't know you that well. I've sat with you a couple of games, but the one thing I wanted to tell people about was the game where we had to get a point at Bournemouth to get in the playoffs, and we managed to get that point.
We did as well.
After the game, you came upstairs and spoke to all the lads, and obviously, being a Hartlepool lad, you were probably happy that we got in the playoffs, but it just, for me, showed, you know what, this is a real good guy here, that after the game, he's got the humility to come up and and just wish us good luck in the rest of the playoffs, and basically just show that you care. And ever since then, I've thought, he's a good guy, and he's a type of person that you want to be around.
I'll be honest. I mean, if it wasn't Hartlepool, probably chances are I wouldn't have went up. But
yeah,
it was because we needed to win to get into the playoffs. It was us or you.
Yeah.
We needed to beat you. We needed to beat you, and you needed a point, and you got the point. And I think we took the lead twice, and twice you clawed it back. I think Sweeney scored at the back stick with a header to equalise. I think 2-2, and the last half an hour we were throwing everything at you, and we just couldn't get the goal. And we were disappointed because we missed out by a point in the playoffs. You got in there, and I think it goes back to when you're younger, Mickey. If you've been brought up the right way and you respect people,
I agree, man. I agree.
We can have tussles all day long and elbow each other by accident. I played against some tough defenders, and you smash each other. And as long as there's a mutual respect there, I don't mind it. And you take cuts and bruises and split your eye open, and you give them back. And that's just the way it is, especially at low league football. But I always had respect. I never went out to hurt anyone intentionally. And I've been brought up the right way. My mum and dad owned a pub, so for 39 years in Hartlepool. So I was always brought up with older people. I was taught to respect my elders. When I was 15, 16, I was hanging around with older lads in my mum and dad's pub. So they taught me how to act and go on and be respectful. And I think you take that into your life. And I wanted to go and speak to you, and I think I had a bond with you after that, because every time I came and watched Hartlepool and went to the supporters club, I'd end up sitting and having a couple of drinks with half of your players after the game, and chatting to them and sitting almost as if I was one of you. So
I remember Fletch sitting watching a game with you in the sun. We were both not playing, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had a connection with you. Whereas then after that, I was like, do you know what? If he's here, I'm going to go and speak to him. I'm going to sit and watch a game with him, have a beer with him, whatever it is. And it was just nice because we had a bond anyway with Hartlepool, but you don't get to know people that well until something like that happens.
And I remember going up and I had chatting to you, and I was telling you about Bournemouth, and a few of your boys were asking about me, and we had a good chat for 20 minutes after the game, and I congratulated you because I wanted you to go on. I mean, Bournemouth's the next team I looked for. It was obviously us, then Liverpool and Bournemouth. They were my two. Liverpool and Hartlepool, they were my two teams. So we couldn't get in the playoffs. We missed out, but Hartlepool were in there, and I wanted to wish you all a good luck, because it's the next result I look for behind Bournemouth. So I did have a special bond with a lot of the players of the club. I still love Hartlepool to this day. I'm devastated that they're not in the Football League. But I think, like I say, that was just my character, and that comes from my parents when I was younger. And like yourself, we didn't know each other. I knew you'd been there a long time, and I remember speaking to players on the pitch, and I just thought, do you know what? These are a great bunch of lads. You had a great team. You had not only a great team on the pitch, you had a good bunch of lads. I could see you had a good connection as a unit. And I thought, you know what? They've got that togetherness that, I've only had maybe 3 or 4 times in my career. In the 24-year career, I've only had it 3 or 4 times, that proper togetherness that you think we can go places. And I felt it. I felt that season that you had it.
Yeah, I like what you're talking about there, Fletch, about the respect between Hartlepool and yourself, because I think that extends to the people of the town still as well. Because even though you only played sort of 40 games for Hartlepool, you've gone on to achieve so much, and I think it's testament to you that the people of Hartlepool still now sort of claim that achievement as theirs as well, because you're from Hartlepool.
That's lovely to think that, and listen, there's nothing makes me more proud than when I come back and I'll go out for a couple of drinks with my friends and go in the bar, and then someone comes up and goes, "You're Steve Fletcher, I know you, well done on your career." Maybe not because of my time at Hartlepool, because yes, we got promoted, but I wasn't a pool legend. Of course I wasn't. I played 40 games, of which most of them were off the bench. But for them to recognise my career and what I've done, and they were telling me things that I didn't even realise I'd done. So they followed me, they come up to me and go, "I've been following you for 20 years, 25 years. And do you know what? I'd go back and tell my mum and dad, and my mum and dad were like so proud for me to tell them that somebody random has just come up to me and said, "I've always followed your career since you left in 1992. I followed you and you've done really well. I'm so pleased for you. Well done." And I'm like, that fills me with so much pride and honour. And I'm very humbled that anyone would even do that. But you're right, that's the people are in Hartlepool. They're honest. That's basically it. They're honest. They'll tell you how it is. And if someone's done well, they'll tell you. If you haven't, they'll also tell you. So they're true, good people. And you know, that's what I was brought up with. And they are special moments when people come and talk to you, don't know you, no matter where you are. If someone recognises you and they speak highly of you, there can't be any better recognition. It doesn't matter what level you play at.
Yeah. When I first went to Hartlepool, I don't know whether it was Mick Tate, it might have been Bakes or Brian Honor, and you're trying to gauge out, aren't you, like the feeling of the club and this, that and the other. You know, like, Mickey, the best result for a Hartlepool fan is to win 4-3. And I was like, 4-3? Well, like, why 4-3? He said, because if you're 3-0 down at half time, they can boo you off and hammer you. But I tell you what, if you come back and win 4-3, you'll be an absolute hero. And he said, because they like to have a twist and they like to have that, but they really want you to win at the same time.
They're like, you're a hero for life. They still remember things. They don't never forget. Hartlepool people never forget things. They talk about games that I couldn't even remember what happened. And when I come back, they're like, remember when you scored that goal and we won at Bury in the League Cup? I'm like, wow, that was 1991. It was like, how do you remember that?
We had it on.
Talk about never forgetting. Talk about never forgetting. I spoke to Ian McGuckin earlier today.
He was my best mate at the club.
Well, Ian said to me he remembers quite a few things about you that maybe we couldn't mention on the podcast, but he did say that I had to ask you about the bargain beach party tickets you got in Tenerife.
Oh, mate. So we used to go on holiday together at the end of the season, and then we used to go out, listen, 18 to 30s. And then we got a team together. You had to do, when you're in them situations, you've got to do stupid beach party things, and I had to sing a song and get everybody involved. So you had a group of people, and I headed it. And obviously, after a few beers, you start taking your top off and doing silly things, all in good faith, all in good humour. But Gookie didn't want to do it, and I said, "Here, I'll do it." And I took my little group away, and we learned this little song, and I was the head of it, and everybody joined in. We won the competition, but yeah, Gookie was. I mean, I love Gookie, and I still speak to him now after all these years. And
yeah, me too.
And he's a Middlesbrough lad, and I love him to bits. And you know, he's straight down the line. He tells you as it is. He went on and done really well. I know he had to retire from injury. He played for Fulham, and yeah, a great lad. And speak more time. He was my best mate at the club for a few years, along with Andy Davies as well. Andy Davies was there. He was quite young, because you got to remember when I was younger. Although Nicky Southall came in towards the end, he went on had a fabulous career. But they're all older. You had Bakes, Joe Allen, Rob McKinnon, Brian Honor, Tinks, Nobsy, John McPhail, Ian Butterworth, all these, Paul Olsen, Paul Dalton, Jesus, the team. They were all older than me. Majority of them were a lot older than me, so I had to cling on to that younger group to a degree. And it was Ian McGuckin and Andy Davies, and then my last year was Nicky Southall. And it's great that we're still friends after all these years. 28 years later, 29 years later, we still text each other. It's I love it. And then when I see my WhatsApp come over and the team McGuckin, have a bit of banter for a couple of days, and then probably don't speak to him again like footballers do for a couple of months. But you know he's there. If you want to speak about anything, you can trust him, and you're going to get the truth out of him. And I think football's like that, isn't it, Mickey?
Yeah, you need friends like that. I mean, I love Gookie to bits. I always tell a story. I was flying on holiday with Gookie, and Gookie can handle a couple of drinks. So we're in the airport, and we're flying to Dominican Republic, and we got onto the aeroplane, and he bought me one, so I bought him one back, and then I owed him one on the aeroplane basically. So I sent one back with the air stewardess, and thinking, right, we're done now, we're level, we don't need to do anything else. So then he sent me another one back. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to keep sending them back. But every time I levelled up, he kept sending us another one back. I'm not kidding you. I got off the plane. I had about 8 cans in my bag because I couldn't drink them all. Gookie had finished all his. But do you know what? He is a salt-of-the-earth guy. He's one of them lads who's you can depend on. And like you say, if you need him, he'll be there for you.
100%. You can just phone him and say, Gookie, I need you. When do you need me? That'll be the first question. When do you need me? Right, I'll be there. Yeah. Great lad.
Brilliant, man.
Right, Fletch. He wants to know if you've still got your Astra convertible. You're signing on for. You went on.
Mate, I had started off with a Escort 1.1, then I went and got a Ford Sierra, and then I got an XR3i, a Ford XR3i when I was at Hartlepool, and I pulled it in the car park like I was the nuts. When I came to Bournemouth, I thought, oh, it's beautiful weather. I might get a convertible, but obviously on 300 quid a week, I was like, can't really get anything new. And then I saw these Astra GTE convertibles. It was white with a black roof. So I think my mum and dad might have helped me out with it, and I put a deposit down and I went and got it. and I was driving around, mate, like I was cruising, like, oh, mate, around the street of Bournemouth doing the circuits. I was like, look at this, and everyone must have looked at me and go, what an absolute dick this geezer is. You couldn't really get away with a convertible in Hartlepool.
There wouldn't be much use for it, Fletch.
That's what I mean. The roof would be down about twice a year, at least in Bournemouth. I had 6 months of it.
Right, Fletch, honestly, that's been absolutely brilliant. I've loved that. At times, flown over talking here, and good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully, you get the results you need. And as I say, Eddie, I'm his biggest fan. I said he should have got the England job last time, the England job. I said, give it to him, give him 10-year contract and let him do his stuff with the England team. But hopefully you get out of it and you can go on and have fantastic careers.
I hope so. I think if we can survive, it'll be another great escape. It'll be miraculous. We've got Southampton at home after Man City, and then we've got Everton away. But listen, it's the Premier League. Every game's difficult. There's no easy games. They all pose their own problems. And if we were to stay up, I think next season will be a successful season. If it's a tough one, listen, it's a test of character, isn't it? You're never going to go into the Premier League, any small club, and think you're going to breeze it for 5 years in a row. Eventually, you're going to come into some problems. And like Eddie said to the players in the last few weeks, if we come out of this, you'll not only be a better player, you'll be a better person.
Yeah.
Well,
Fletch,
that,
Simo, 2 seconds. Fletch, Man City, them defenders, they can deal with little sharp runs in behind. I tell you what they couldn't deal with. 6'3" at the back post with a big elbow. Get yourself on that pitch.
Do you know what? I know absolutely tongue-in-cheek, and he went to me the other day, we come off. Because obviously I still join in a bit in training, especially when we do defensive work and we're playing up against some big strikers. And he said to me, can we register you for the last 5 minutes? Register you. He said, bring you on. We'll just hit you on diags. We've never done it. It's not our philosophy. He said, but can we do it? And I went, I'm ready. Get me out there. But let me tell you, the first ball in the channel, I would fall over. Not a chance.
I thought we had a switch to play exclusive there, Mick.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. Fletch is in the squad for tomorrow.
Imagine that. And we are wheeling him out at 47 years and 11 months old. Steve Fletcher, here he is, everybody. And everyone will be like, who the hell is that?
I tell you what, if you scored the goal to keep them up, what would the name after that? You'd have to rename Bournemouth.
Well, I'd be sure, hopefully, along with Eddie, give him the, what do they call it, the key to the city.
Yeah, freedom of the city, yeah.
That's what Eddie got. Eddie got that last year in Bournemouth.
Did he?
Brilliant. Yeah, it's fabulous. It was a great event.
Honestly, Fletch, I just wish you lived closer so I could come down and watch him work. I really do admire him that much.
You know what? He's very private, and it's not he doesn't allow anybody, but he's very in-house. He's very private. And someone he knows, someone he can trust.
Yeah.
Obviously,
so I wouldn't be allowed in then.
Not your camera, did you? You're a trustworthy person, aren't you?
Of course I am.
Well, Fletch, just want to let you know that you probably know already, your family and friends will be telling you, but the whole of Hartlepool are behind Bournemouth as well. Everyone's, crossing their fingers that things go your way in the last 3 games.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Thank you.
And thanks very much for joining us as well. It's been a real pleasure.
No, I've really enjoyed it. Some good banter and reminiscing of the old times. You listen, as you get older, you live for memories, and then memories are brilliant. And to share them with yourself and Micky, it's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Micky, what another fantastic guest Fletch was. He just absolute enthusiasm brimming out of him for the game, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you sort of know what you're going to get with Fletch. You know he's a character. He can talk, but he's a good guy. He really is a good guy. And I think sometimes when you see him on the pitch, and like he says, he's tan and his arms are big, and that goes against him a little bit. But some of the stuff he's gone into tonight, and I mean, he's in there in the Premier League club in the middle of all the COVID stuff, and obviously still scrapping for survival, and he's telling us stuff about Eddie, and it's just brilliant. And to get that sort of insight for someone that's actually in there doing it right now is invaluable. You know what I mean? It's hard to get inside Premier League clubs as is, but he's given us a real insight of what's going on at the moment.
And it is brilliant, isn't it, that Hartlepool people, like we said to him, Hartlepool people do have a real pride in what he's done with his career, because it's the people of Hartlepool are like that, aren't they? They're very proud of the people that come from the town, and if he's gone and made such a success of himself, and just because he's left Hartlepool to do it, that doesn't diminish what he's done for them.
No, and I think in a way it's almost like he's connected now with the Premier League club, even though he didn't play any of his games in the Premier League and spent a lot of the time in the lower leagues like myself and a lot of players. Because now Bournemouth have escalated so much and he's gone with that journey and he's such a famous sort of role model and hero in Bournemouth. He's been escalated along the way like that, so everyone in Hartlepool, rightly so, should be proud of him. I mean, you should be proud if you're playing over 800 games in a career. It's a lot of games, and especially who's getting at the age that he was when he was still playing. But he's gone on to do magnificent things within football, and no one will ever surpass what he's done at Bournemouth.
Brilliant. Well, Micky, looking ahead to next week, it's going to be episode 10 of Switch Your Play next week. We're going to have to do something special. I think we're going to have to get a special guest on next week, to mark the occasion.
Yeah, I'm just racking my brains to see who we can get, but hopefully we'll be able to get someone that's worthy of our 10th episode.
Well, thank you very much indeed for everybody for watching and listening once again to Switch Your Play. Do check us out on our social media. Join us on there and keep up to date with who will be coming on next week. But I hope you enjoyed that one from me and from Micky. See you later.